chapter 12. Go there, let me show you. Now the Lord said to Abraham through the prophet. Is that what you see? No. He wanted to tell Abraham something. He came to him directly. Do you get it? He wants to talk to Isaac. He comes to him. They were having what? Conversations with God. Then Israel goes into the city, goes into Egypt. Hear me. While in Egypt, they begin to observe religion. They begin to see gods, idols, people performing what? Rituals. And they lost touch of the presence. So religion was imported into their relationship with God. And the Bible tells us that when they came out of Israel, God brought them to out of Egypt. God brought them to Mount Sinai. Said, I'm going to be your God. They say, no, give us laws. Why were they demanding for laws? They had seen it where? In Egypt. So God says, Moses, come up. I will give you laws. So he takes a tablet, and then with his own hands, he writes on it. Thou, from God fellowshipping with man, now it is a law to fellowship with him. Thou shalt do this. Thou shalt not do this. Thou shalt do this. Thou shalt not do this. Thou shalt do this. And they said, can you keep this? They said, we can keep it. So scripture tells us that Moses, you can see all this in Exodus 20, takes an animal, kills it, and then sprinkles them with the blood and says, by this blood you are bound to this covenant. Now, that agreement is what is called the Old Covenant. That if you will not do this, this will be the repercussions for doing this. And if you will do this, this will be the reward for being obedient. Or your obedience. So there's a reward for obedience, and there's a penalty for disobedience. So if the worshippers came before God, are you listening to me? If the worshippers came before God, what did they do? They didn't have a relationship. It was more about what does the law say, and how best can you do what? Can you keep it? It's about do's and don'ts. God regimented every area of their lives, down to their clothing. So he says, a man shall not wear that which pertains exclusively to a woman. So if you're a man, this is how you should dress. If you're a woman, this is how you should dress. If you go to the farm, this is how you should farm. If you are planting cassava here, don't add maize to it. If you add maize to it, a curse will come. So what became the law, the work of the priest, was to teach the people the law and interpret to them which law you broke that led to which curse you are experiencing. Is somebody following? So the work of a priest is to study the law and teach it to the people. So under the law, some of you sit there, they have already defaulted. Terry is wearing jeans, and at the same time he's wearing a sweater. The law says you can't do that. You can't. It's not allowed. I am the closest person to what the law requires. What you are wearing from the top should be what should be down. Are you with me? All those of you here mixing fabric, there is a punishment for it. Down to their hygiene and their food. So their foods, the law says you can eat. And their food you shouldn't eat. You can't eat pork. Now, the Bible tells us that these laws were so many that you didn't even know when you will break one. So you could break a law without knowing. But ignorance of not knowing the law does not stop the penalty from coming. You can't say, I did not know. One day, one of our brothers here was driving in a traffic. Have you ever been around Bannex? You know those policemen? You know, they're just waiting there, just smiling, God be with you. You know what they are there for? If you break the law, they will catch you. And this particular brother was telling me, I had a good laugh. That's why you must not follow people to do what is wrong. He was behind one car. It was red. The car went. So when he was coming, they say, stop. So he told the policeman, but sit down, that man. Say, sit down, that man. He broke the law and he's going. He said, wait, if a thief comes to your house and they couldn't catch it and another one comes, they should allow that one go. He answered himself. That's how the law works. So it is your responsibility to know what is expected of you. Hear me now. So that anything that comes to you by way of blessing, you worked for it. It was dependent on your ability to do or to please God. Do I have a witness? It was dependent on your ability to keep the law. Certain sicknesses were caused by the laws that they couldn't keep. So there's a woman in the book of Mark chapter 5. The Bible tells us that this woman has had the issue of blood for what? For many years. She's bleeding. What do they call it? Hemorrhage, right? For years. And the problem is not going. And under this old system, she has done something wrong. That is why she's in this situation. And scripture tells us that she had gone from doctors to doctors. You know who these doctors are? They are not medical doctors. They are experts of the law. So this one will ask her, hello, ma'am. Have you been observing the ritual of, because if a woman, I pity women under the law. That's why they don't come out. Because under the law, once you have your monthly period, you have to go into, I think, another 8 days of cleansing. That means within that 8 days, nobody's supposed to touch you. You are not supposed to cook. Not these days that some of you, we carry your pad, whatever, are you getting me? Hold it and be cooking inside the kitchen. You can't try that under the law. You're unclean. I don't intend to be, but I want you to see how the law was. If you're on your period under the law, you stayed in a room. You don't go out. You are unclean. And when you're done, you go and burn your menstrual clothes. That's what the Bible was saying. It says, all of man's righteousness is like filthy rags. You burn your menstrual clothes, then guess what? You burn it and then you stay away and observe 7 days to be sure that you are totally cleansed. So for half the month, you are not having interactions with people. Every woman ought to be born again. And every woman ought to be grateful to Jesus. Then you are now certified clean. Then you can now come. So imagine this woman in a place where she's not allowed to go out. So she's trying to get solutions to her problem. So she goes to meet these doctors of the law. Help me study the law and find out what am I missing so that I can do it. And that's where the church is. A lot of people are bleeding. They are bleeding. And you know the mindset of the law. The moment something happens to you, you begin to have done wrong. So Jesus is coming with his disciples, and there is a man born blind. And guess the first question that comes out of the mouth of the disciples? Jesus, who sinned that this man was born blind? Why? Because the man was born blind. He didn't have opportunity to sin.